Today we're going to be doing a quick video on one of SKIL's newer releases this year, and it's going to be this flip drill. They have two different versions, a 12 volt and a 20 volt. However, the only difference between the kits is the battery you get. Everything else is the same. My goal here today, we'll briefly talk about some of the features of this, and we'll also do a side-by-side drill comparison to some of their other 12 volt drills out there to see where this one stacks up. The version I have here is the 20 volt, so I got the drill, a 20 volt 2Ah battery. You're going to get a charger over here, and this is just going to be the 20 watt. If you buy this 2.0 battery by itself, it does give you a 45 watt charger, but when you buy this kit, you only get the 20 watt. In addition, you got your USB-C cable, and they also give you a couple drill bits and also the belt clip that attaches there. If you get the 12 volt version, this is the battery you're going to get, and it's going to be a 2.0 12 volt. And you're going to see here, as we take this off, our 20 volt is quite a bit bigger there, but it is a little bit more powerful. And the one big difference between these two batteries, not only as a 20 volt versus 12, is this charging output. So if you're not familiar with any of SKIL's batteries, they have this USB-C charger here that not only charges the battery, it's a two-way charger. So you can actually power your electronics or your phone or whatnot you're trying to charge. But over here, this is going to be a 60 watt and this is a 100 watt. And just to give you a quick comparison on, charging an electronic device on these, if I use this 12 volt on an iPad, it'll take it roughly from 50% all the way to 100%, and then this 2.0 battery will be drained. You can use this 20 volt 2H battery on that same iPad, and it'll charge it roughly from 15% all the way to 100%. So it almost charges the entire iPad, versus this is only capable of charging to 50%. So that difference of the 60 watt versus the 100 watt output is significantly better on this 20 volt. Moving on to some of the specs of this, first starting with the price. If you get the 12 volt version, it's typically around that $99. If you get the 20 volt, because you're getting this bigger 20 volt battery over here, it is a little bit more expensive, roughly around $10 to $15 more expensive for the 20 volt version. But again, everything else is the same other than the battery. In regard to the specs on the drill, it's going to be a brushless motor with 350 inch-pounds of torque and 1700 RPM. And that is the exact same as SKIL's 12 volt drill. The only difference you're going to see is this is a regular chuck, versus over here on our flip drill, you must use drill bits that have a hex connection on the end. And if you've never used one of these flip drills, they're all going to have just a lock like that, so you can switch it around like that. So if you're using different size bits, or you're drilling some pilot holes and then you're have something over here where you're attaching screws to something there, you can have two different versions there. In regard to the operation, you got a 1 and 2 speed here, and I'll give you some close-up pictures of these where you can have the first speed and the second speed. In addition, they have this option down here where you can electronically control, the torque. So you can either do a drill mode, or you can do 1 through 9 here in regard to the chuck speed on the settings for the torque there. Then the other two things, it does have an LED up front here, and you also do have this part up here that has a magnetic force there where you can put screws and stuff up there so they're not rolling around. If you're working on something, you can attach them there temporarily, then put them up there. But it's a pretty slick little setup. It is a little bit bigger with the 20 volt battery versus, the 12 volt, but again, it is nice that you can do either or depending on which battery system you have. In regard to the weight, if we use our 12 volt battery, it's going to come in at roughly 2 pounds, 10 ounces. If we switch over to our 20 volt, it's going to come in roughly a little bit over 3 pounds. So our 20 volt is just a little bit heavier. Then the last thing in regard to the size, and I'll just compare it to SKIL's 12 volt drill over there. As you can see, our flip drill is a little bit bulkier because you have that attachment up there, but it's not much bigger in regard to size when we compare it to their 12 volt drill. Moving on to our demo here, the first thing I'm going to do is kind of demonstrate the use case for this. And at least for me, what I do a lot of times is I'm assembling hardwood display cases or different things I build. And a lot of times I need to have a pilot hole drilled first so I don't have any splintering with the hardwood. So I'll first do that. Then you can follow it up and then use another bit there to drive your screw in. So that's really the use case for that. Obviously if you have multiple drills, you could have drill bit over here and you're constantly picking up the other drill when you got to attach a screw, versus over here, you can very easily flip back and forth just like that. In addition, I'm also going to do a drill comparison between the 12 volt and the 20 volt, because that is something that comes up a lot of times in these dual voltage drills. Is there's really a better benefit of going this one versus over here in regard to output. And I'll also maybe throw in another comparison with the regular drill just to kind of see where it stacks up against SKIL's regular 12 volt drill as well. So without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so what are my final thoughts here? As you saw there in that quick demo, when we compared our 12 volt 2H battery to the 12 volt 4H battery over there, our 4L was a little bit quicker, not by much, but it did look like it was just a little bit quicker. When we put the 20 volt 2H battery on there, it was significantly quicker than our 12 volt. That was something that I was actually kind of shocked when I first put it on there. This drill was almost like a completely different drill when this 20 volt battery was on there. You saw there when we had the 12 volt on there, it sometimes bogged down on some of those larger screws. You put this 20 volt on there, it went right through it, and the motor significantly sounded louder and quicker. So that was probably the biggest difference, I would say, in the drill comparison. We also did the 12 volt regular drill that SKIL has. Although these are rated at the same inch-pounds of torque and RPM, this seemed to be a little bit quicker. It wasn't by much, but that was something that I did notice as well, that I think our regular drill is just a little bit quicker than our flip drill. So to wrap things up, if you're in the market for one of these flip drills, I think this SKIL is an excellent option, especially for the price. Again, you can get this whole kit for around $100 versus you compare some of the others in the market, just the bare tool is $100. So I think this is an excellent option. If you're in the market for one of these, check out this SKIL flip drill. I think you might be impressed on how well this thing works, especially for the price. So hopefully this helped you out. If it did, please give me the thumbs up. If you're interested in more content like this, please hit that subscribe. But again, I hope this helped you out. Thanks for watching.